Welcome to another episode of Educating Homebuyers, the podcast. I'm your host, Brady Haye, and my mortgage team has over 9 years of mortgage experience here in Des Moines, Iowa. Whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, investing, or simply just curious about the market, this show is all about helping you and future homebuyers feel informed, educated, and comfortable as you take your next step. Each week, I sit down with real estate professionals, past clients, and local experts to unpack real stories, real advice, and what you actually need to know when buying a home today. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Today's guest is someone who's been a leading example in the Des Moines real estate market since 2016. She's a self-proclaimed funniest realtor in Des Moines. She runs an incredible team of 8 real estate agents locally. And whether it's first-time home buyers, luxury, new construction, she thrives on problem solving and bringing joy to the process. Her heart and service and a knack for navigating complex deals are what sets her apart. Emina Steward, welcome to Educating Homebuyers. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Super excited to have you here. It's, it kind of been in the works for a while. We've been having conversations about kind of rolling this out and getting it going. And I, when I was running the idea by you of kind of ramping this podcast up and kind of take it to the next level, you said you have to be the first guest.
Yeah.
So
I figure I had to ask.
Here we are. So, excited to have you on. Context for everybody else, just kind of really focusing on taking this podcast to the next level, but focusing on giving everybody that we have on a platform to help educate home buyers. It's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
So before we dive into the nitty gritty of the bulk of the content, I'd love to just give you an opportunity to share about your journey. Who are you? Introduce yourself, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been licensed since 2016.
Okay.
I was 20 years old when I got my license and was part-time for 6 months and then just dove in 100% into that. So I started on a team as a buyer's agent.
Okay.
So all I know is working as a team. I worked on Tim Schuette's team 2016 and 17, and then my late husband Greg and I we left Exit and went to Remax Precision and worked the two of us for, like a year and a half or so.
Okay.
And then out of nowhere, we had 3 agents within 3 months ask if we'd be open to them.
Be a part of it.
Yeah, them joining us. And we were kind of like, well, sure.
Yeah,
let's see how it goes. And we just structured it really casually.
Okay.
There's a lot of different team structures, I feel like, in the Metro, and ours is very collaborative.
Okay.
So now it's myself, Sean, our full-time assistant, who's also licensed, and then 6 other agents.
Awesome.
And I can't imagine working as an independent agent.
Yeah.
No, I love having people to talk to.
That's a key point, right? Like being surrounded by people who motivate you, who you can bounce ideas off each other, frankly, being a better resource for the clients you're representing.
Absolutely.
All of the above, right? And that's the beauty of it, and surrounding yourself with people you're comfortable with is what I would say.
And they're all great, and we have so much fun that most days work doesn't
even feel like work, does it?
No, not at all.
Okay, so 2016.
Yeah.
Why real estate? At that point, what's going on in your world that led you to like kind of taking that leap?
Yeah. I worked at a bank. And I really liked the mortgage gal.
Okay.
And I was like, I could see myself doing mortgages.
Sure.
And it was so corporate, and it was so, I don't know, I hate to say it, but like, it's who likes whom. The promotions kind of felt like they went that way.
Yeah.
And there was this guy that I knew that was about my age, and he got his real estate license. And I kind of just looked at it and I was like, gosh, like, if he could do that, I could probably do that.
Yeah.
And so I actually reached out to Junior Ibarra at Keller Williams.
Okay.
I randomly had him on Facebook.
Okay.
Didn't know him. Literally messaged him, and I was like, hey, I don't know why we're friends, but I see you're a realtor. Can we grab coffee? I'm
interested in this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we just grabbed coffee, and it sounded like something that I thought I would enjoy.
Okay.
And 10 years later, I still love it.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
'Cause it's one of those industries, and I think I learned this, frankly, myself, is that you never plan for it, right?
No.
It's not like when you were a kid, you would say, I want to grow up and be a real estate agent or a mortgage lender or, frankly, work in the industry at all. At least a lot of the people that I know did not plan that.
Yeah.
But as things progress, you kind of just fall into it, and if everything goes well and you are mentored by the right people, you fall in love with it. At least I did. Like, I fell in love with truly being able to and kind of roots back to the heart of the podcast, but educating people on what does it take to buy a house? How do you do that? How do you list a house? And we all had to learn, no different than when you first started. There was things that you'd never experienced before, but you just kind of dive in and like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And I couldn't imagine doing anything else either.
No.
So.
And it's so fun because like you get to help people.
Yeah.
You get to work with a variety of different people, and every 2 or 3 months you're kind of just cycling through. So it's always somebody different and something different and a new challenge. And
it's never guaranteed, right?
It's never guaranteed.
You always have to wake up and show up every day to make sure that you've got the next opportunity available. And, I tell people this all the time, like, and why they ask me how I do what I do. And I think it's obviously my side's a little bit different than the real estate agent side, but I still think there's a lot of similarities in sense where, yes, we're in sales, but also we're in advising and we're in marketing and we're in, like there's just so many different sectors of what we do.
Yeah.
And every day is different, right? You may have a day full of showings that you're out showing a client a house, and then the next day you're literally spending the entire time planning out social media, and then the next day you're here filming a podcast. And like there's just so many different sectors, but it's every day is different, like you talked about. And I think that at least for me, what roots back to the premise on what I fell in love with the most is the people that I get to help, and when you get to build those rapport with those people and have those conversations and learn about their dreams and their stories. And, our event that we had last week, I think that the point that really drove home for me is we're not selling houses, we're selling dreams, and we're building this family legacy for these people and helping them achieve that and guiding them through that, and I think that you can, just in the little bit that I've gotten to work with you and partner alongside you, like I can see that in your heart behind what you do too.
Yeah.
So,
and 9 times out of 10, it's a great experience.
Yeah.
I mean, people are moving because they want to.
Yes.
It's usually great factors that are driving them to need to move.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun to be a part of that.
Like, and even if it's not too, like that's a reality that we've all faced as well, is like, it's not always sunshine and rainbows when people are selling and buying houses too.
Yeah.
But the reality is having somebody in your corner that you can know, like, and trust, who's going to guide you through that process is what we want to be as advisors, right?
Absolutely.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Dive into like a little bit of behind the scenes of being a real estate agent before we give some tips on, home buying, which is obviously the premise. But what is an average behind the scenes day look like for you? Like when you wake up and show up at the office, what's that looking like?
I scroll TikTok and Reels to see what else I could do next.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I mean, sometimes that is a part of it. You said marketing's a big piece and you never know what's next.
So inspiration from social media?
I mean, I'm kind of totally joking when I say that.
Of course.
There's so much more that I'll dive into next. Yeah. But that's a part of it. Just like in current times, like you have to keep up with everything.
No doubt.
And it's so important to be in front of your sphere of influence, your SOI. And, we want the just listed and the just sold, and we want to market the houses. But I think that in order to be successful, you have to be authentic. And it's not even like just pretend, like it's not posting authentically. Like you obviously have to actually care and like want to interact with the people and want to talk to them and spend time with them. And I think just like really being a real person and being present online is so important.
I think I've told you this before, and I'll share it here just because I think it's valuable. But I think that one of the biggest misconceptions when looked at social media from a real estate or just really a professional standpoint in general is that it has to be all professional content.
Yeah.
And I would argue that stuff that you share with your kiddos is just as business producing as what a tip on how to buy a house is, right? And
Absolutely,
so being authentic to who you are and sharing the personal side of what makes you a great mom and like all of those things, people see that content, right? And they're like, oh, that's Emina, she's a great mom, but also because I've seen that, I remember how great of a realtor she is.
Yeah.
And then I want to reach out to her because she's a personable, relatable person. Whereas if you're sitting here just simply posting only business content all the time or tips or tricks or whatever, you lose that personal touch, right?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of relates to the, there's this like stigma in the air that AI is replacing jobs and stuff right now.
Yeah.
AI could post every day for your social media on like what is a tip on how to successfully buy a house. What they can't replace is the person behind the camera who cares a lot about you as a client.
Yeah.
That's what our clients deserve, right?
Absolutely.
They deserve somebody that's going to represent them, walk them through these things they've never been through before because we care.
Yeah.
And that's something that AI can never take away from us.
I went to the RE/MAX conference in February, and we had a lot of like AI classes.
Yeah.
And that was the big one, was AI doesn't have feelings.
Yes.
They can problem solve, but can they really can they be well-rounded in their problem solving with the feelings involved?
No doubt.
But I think at the end of the day, like, there's so many realtors in our market, and so many great realtors,
no doubt,
who will get you from point A to point B seamlessly, and you'll have a good experience. And that's where, when I'm interviewing, if I'm interviewing with a seller or a buyer who is, talking to 3 people that are all great, I think at the end of the day, what I do always tell them is, you have to work with who you want to work with. Like, who do you connect with? Who do you maybe have the same values as? Who do you have the same sense of humor as? Who do you want to talk to for 30 to 60 days?
No doubt.
And
hopefully longer.
Longer,
too,
But like, we're going to be real close for a little bit.
Yeah.
And if we're not on the same wavelength and we don't connect well, it's just, it might not
I think that was one of the hardest things
experience.
I learned too, is being able to realize that you might not be the right fit for everybody too. Like, there's going to be people where maybe it isn't the right connection and you don't mesh well, or they don't. A common example, and something that I've implemented in my business recently, is expectation setting and what I call my mortgage consultation, right? Which I know you do similarly with your buyers as well. But I've really found a huge pickup since I've implemented that in the consistency of a 5-star experience for my clients, right? And I've got multiple conversations with people where, when I get referred that client and they call me for the first time, they just want to know rate, payment, and costs. They don't care about anything else. And what's hard for me is, like, don't get me wrong, that stuff's important, right? And we'll go over that at some point.
Yeah.
However, I feel like giving me the time of day to go through my process, educate, and set the right expectations is arguably the most important, right? And even if there's an 1/8 or 1/4 of a point difference from my rate compared to somebody else, the expectations that I can set, the ease of the process with working with my team, can overcome any of that extra cost, right? And if there's anything that's been incredibly challenging for me over the years that I've been doing this, is like, some people just don't care to do that kind of stuff, and they don't want that kind of like hand-holding experience. And accepting that is a hard thing to accept, because it's an opportunity, right? And it's so easy to get caught up in the transaction. But the moment that I flipped the switch on that and be like, nope, this is how I need the process to go in order for it to be a good experience. And if somebody doesn't want to give me the time of day to allow me to do that, it's probably not the right fit, and they're a better fit for somebody else. And it's hard to let that deal go, because it's easy to look at the opportunity or the paycheck that you can receive from it or whatever. But understanding how much better of an experience it is for your other clients who do give you that time of day, when you're not bogged down with somebody who doesn't let you trust the process, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think, like, you doing that is so valuable too. We had a client in February,
earlier this year,
and they did shop around and they did talk to a credit union that had better rates. And it kind of felt like they were leaning in that direction for a minute. And then ultimately they were like, no, we love Brady. He did such a great job explaining the process. And then referred his brother to you the next month, who didn't even talk to anybody else.
Ironically, talked to that brother right before we started recording.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
So there's that piece. That's with first-time home buyers. But I think when it's somebody that's not a first-time home buyer, it's so important too to look at their finances in a bigger picture.
Creative.
And
getting creative with it, and that's from the financing standpoint. Do you have?
And what can you do with that equity? Do you really want to pour it all into a down payment? Do you want to put it towards
example I'll share? I had a client that just closed on their home a week or two ago, and obviously not going to name names for privacy reasons, but they bought their first home in 2018. It's obviously been 7 years since they've done that, and they have gained a significant amount of equity between what they paid down, right, in their balance, and how much the value of their home has increased. They've got some equity to play with there. And as life happens and things get expensive and families grow and everything else that comes along with just life, right, they had accrued some extra debt. So rather than me pre-approving them and saying, hey, you're going to buy this house, why don't we use all that profit from your sale to put down on your next house? We got creative with it. And we used some of that money that they profited to wipe out some of that other high interest debt, reduce their monthly cash flow by a lot, frankly. And then they still had enough for down payment left over, and they got to upgrade their home, had way more space. it was just a win-win, you know? So like examples like that are why it's so important to just jump in and ask more questions, and why I think you and I both focus on a home buyer's goals, right? More than a maximum approval or what do you want in finishes in a house or whatever it is. Like it's truly goal-oriented. You can call it selling, I guess, but it's more just like, hey, what do you want? You know, and how can I help you navigate that?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think sales is easy when you care.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, because the people coming to us, they want to move.
No doubt.
They want to sell their house.
Yeah, they're reaching out for a reason.
Yeah, they're not just random people on the street. But I think when you care and when you're knowledgeable, sales,
no doubt,
it shouldn't feel.
It doesn't feel like sales.
It shouldn't feel like sales.
Yeah,
no, it's
exactly.
just it's experience.
And obviously, we're compensated because of the way we help them, but we never want that to be the picture either. And
no,
a saying I use all the time with any clients I interact with is, "I'm working on your timeline."
Yeah.
So if you come to me and you want to write an offer tonight, we can make that happen, right? But on the flip side, if you're just like curious about it and like are wondering what it looks like, and even if you don't plan to pull the trigger for 2 years, we still want to be that resource. And don't be afraid to reach out to us and say, hey, here's what's going through my brain. Is this something that even makes sense? Is it achievable or is it not? You know, and just kind of navigating that from there.
Well, and setting a timeline too. I mean, if it is, I always tell clients, like, if you're thinking about moving, think about it. Like, really think about it in terms of set a timeline. What's that look like? From financial aspect, from a home life aspect, all of that. Because even if you know you're going to move next year, like if you really know that, you should start lining up all of the pieces for it. Start decluttering. Start looking at your finances, all of that. Because
I think that you and I would both agree that it's kind of proof in the pudding that the more time you have and the more time you give yourself and the less you rush the process, the more positive it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like if you can properly plan, and I think that, you know, we talked prior to hopping on camera, but expectation setting is a big factor in why, you know, things go so smoothly, you know, and one of the questions I had kind of pre-prepared to ask you was, you know, what's a common mistake you see buyers make? And you kind of joked, but it's also very serious where like my buyers don't make mistakes.
I mean,
but the premise behind that and why that's able to be avoided is because of the expectations you set. Yeah. So I'd love to hear you talk about that. Like, what does your process look like when you meet with a prospective home buyer? Yeah. What's that first initial process look like? So initially, obviously, it usually starts with a phone call. Yeah. And that phone call is always leading to scheduling a home buyer consultation. Okay. Even if you've bought before, let's sit down. Let's talk about, you know, the whole process, the timeline, what it looks like today. Obviously, and it could be different too. You know, it's very different. If it's been 15 years since you've bought a home, even if it's been changed. Well, even if it's been 1 year. Yeah. Because as of like July 1st, 2024, we've had exclusive buyers agency agreements, which is a new thing. And it's absolutely insane. I mean, and it's important to go over. It's so important to go over, and it's so important to explain it, and more important to people who aren't first-time home buyers because they experienced it the old way. Yes. When it's first-time home buyers, to them, they're just like, okay, yeah, the process is what it is. But I think it's really important to know that, like, we can't email you houses anymore. Yeah. Like, without that agreement. Without signing this agreement stating we're working together, I can't email you a house that I think you would like. Yeah. I can't show you a house I think you would like. There's so many things you can't do, which is why you have to have those meetings up front. They have to be comfortable with you. They have to choose you. And legally, they have to sign to work with you. Right. And I think for anybody listening, just some extra context into this form and this agreement, the premise behind it is to create more transparency. Absolutely, right? Like to understand how the process works, but also, frankly, how real estate agents are compensated. Yeah. You know, I think that's the bigger misconception that this form is supposed to try to overcome is like, understanding that like, hey, this is my cost of representing you and helping you and navigating this process. Yeah. I want you to be transparent about it. This is what I cost for my services. Normally, in a normal situation, we can negotiate the seller to pay those costs as a buyer's agent, right? And if I'm speaking out of turn, feel free to correct me on that. I guess I don't know. I mean, whether or not it's appropriate to say this, which I think it is. I would say that high in the 90s percentile of the deals that we've done since then, the seller has still paid. And I'm not saying don't expect to pay anything because the way that
agency agreement reads
Yep.
is our cost is X. We are going to try to get it covered by the seller.
But if it's not,
You're responsible for it, and you're not responsible for bringing that in cash.
Yeah.
You know what that could look like would be adjusting your
putting less money
$200,000
down,
purchase price. Not even.
Or changing price.
Change the price by a couple $1,000s. Your monthly payments affected by $10, and
making sure the home's still worth what you're paying for it, obviously.
But I did the math. I did like the whole formula once. And if you were to pay a buyer's agent 3%, like if you as a buyer were to build in 3% commission into your loan, you would have to be in the house for 14 years in order to fully pay that commission.
That money back.
Yep. So if it's $200,000 house, you're paying 3%, $6,000 in commission. By the time you pay $6,000 on your monthly payment, it's going to take 14 years.
Right.
And I ran it with a bunch of different scenarios, different price points, all of that. So realistically, the average buyer is only in their house for 6-7 years. Which at that point you're paying maybe 1.25%
Yep.
And it's really, and that's assuming that the seller is not covering anything.
Right.
Which is in our market here in Des Moines, rare.
Still pretty standard.
It's still rare. But yes, so anyway, the other thing that it touches on the transparency aspect is our duties to you.
I
think
you should expect.
A lot of agents were writing offers for clients that they weren't really working for. Or people were, let's say they'd be working with Joe, and Joe's been showing them houses for 6 months. And then they walk into an open house and they meet Kevin, and Kevin's like, oh, you love it? Let's write an offer. So they write an offer with Kevin, and then they call Joe the next day and they're like, hey, we wrote an offer. Contract. We have questions. Well, Joe can't help you anymore. Joe put all of this work in. You trust Joe. You don't know Kevin. But now you're stuck working with Kevin because you didn't exclusively sign to work with Joe, but nor did they understand. And I don't think it's malicious at all. It's just they don't understand the role of a buyer's agent.
No doubt.
And
there's a lot of misconception
now they
there.
do. And on that, so it has buyer's duties to you, your duties to the buyer, and it just simplifies everything.
I thought it was interesting when it was first kind of rolling out and this lawsuit was still playing out. From my perspective, obviously it doesn't affect me as the mortgage lender, right? But I always thought it was interesting because it seemed like it was getting a lot of negative backlash in our industry from real estate agents, just like a little bit hesitant to have it signed. But the more that it's come out, the more regular it's become. I think it's been nothing but a good thing.
I agree.
Like it's just creating more transparency, and who doesn't love transparency and understanding what they're getting into and how it works and everything like that. And I think it's done nothing but improve the client experiences, I
agree. What was crazy to me, and not to like throw people under the bus, but there were so many agents that weren't doing home buyer consultations. So when I started on Tim's team, I vividly remember we used to hold like seminars, and like learning the buyer consult, like the back of your hand was like the number one thing. I mean, that was like drilled into me from day one, thankfully. So when this happened, it was just a matter of adding that onto there, adding that into the presentation, and it was so seamless. But I think there were agents who didn't do that, and they kind of struggled with, how am I going to incorporate this into the business? But I still think,
for the home buyers listening, like this is just nothing but good news for them, because now they're hopefully
getting more
going
educated,
to get the education that they deserve
when they deserve it,
and justifying the cost of the agent, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's another big thing that I think people are missing, is like there were probably a lot of people that were raking in some big checks by just scraping the bottom of the barrel and doing the bare minimum for their client representation.
Probably.
I'm not saying that it's you or frankly anybody in this market, but that's the truth, is like the cost of a real estate agent. They should be providing the value that they cost, right? Anytime you're buying anything for that manner, you should be getting out of it what you're paying for it. And that's what I love about it, frankly, is like it's really caused real estate agents and professionals to step up their game and provide a better level of service for their clients.
And I want to mention, it wasn't an Iowa thing. It's a national thing. So I think, we have so many great agents here, but there's markets that are very different from ours. And some of those markets were where this issue kind of started. But I mean, I ultimately think it's a good thing.
No doubt.
For everybody.
I completely agree. No, this has been fantastic conversation for sure. I think that one of the big things that I always want to make sure that on all of these episodes we touch on is giving you an opportunity to share real life examples of something one of your home buyers has navigated that's helped that they can take away and learn from, right? So I kind of know where this is going to go and what the example is, but real life example, talk about one of your client experiences they had and kind of how you helped navigate them through that.
Yeah. So I have a recent one, and it was a mutual client of ours.
Yep.
So I think we were on the phone.
Yeah.
I think I was talking to you on the phone as this was happening.
You're correct.
So we did our final walkthrough, and we walked in, and the bed in the primary bedroom was still there. So she's like, oh, they left the bed. And I was like, oh, they'll probably come back for it later. Well, I go into the bedroom, and my jaw kind of just dropped. I was like, oh, no. The bed was built in. I mean, like, built into the wall, built into the carpet.
Yeah.
It was a custom-made bed, and it matched the fireplace, and it was beautiful, but it wasn't her style.
Yeah.
And she had a new bed coming in like 48 hours.
I was going to say, it was like that day, right?
Yeah, because this was like 4 o'clock on Thursday. We closed Friday morning.
Yeah.
Movers are coming Saturday. And so, of course, she's kind of panicking. And not to like give too much information, but this move was a big move. I mean, there were big emotions behind this. Moving states, first new home.
Yep.
Just a lot of moving parts.
Yep.
And I just kind of looked at her and I was like, okay, do you trust me? And she was like, well, yeah. And I was like, let me figure it out. So I called the listing agent, whom I have a great relationship with. And she and I were both kind of like, we were on the same page of, we don't want to put blame on anybody.
No doubt.
It wasn't my fault for not noticing the bed was built in.
Well, not only that, but like, how do you expect like a seller to know to have to disclose that, right? Like, it's just a part of it. And technically speaking, from the contract standpoint, fixtures are to stay with the home.
Yeah.
If it's fixed to the property,
and it is,
it's supposed to stay.
So that's what was crazy was like, they didn't disclose it, but they didn't need to. And like, I didn't catch it. The inspector didn't catch it because you don't ever look at a bed and you're like,
oh, is that
connected to the floor? But yeah, there was no carpet under it or anything.
Yeah.
So the next morning, so I made some phone calls, had my general contractor there, I think at like 8 a.m. the next morning, tearing out the bed, ran to the carpet store that I typically use. And I was like, Terry, I have an emergency. And he's like, okay, what's going on? And I was like, I need a bedroom carpeted. And he's like, when? And I was like, by 3 o'clock. And at this point, it's like 11:30 a.m. And so I took like four or five samples, ran them across town to see which one she liked that matched the best. Yeah. And I think at like 3:30, Terry had his guys at the house tearing out the carpet.
The bed was removed. Carpet was out.
Carpet was replaced. The wall was getting textured and painted. And by Saturday, it was as if
ready to roll. It's like it never happened.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was really hectic, but it was so much fun.
I think the lesson there is there's always things that are going to come up that you can't expect, right? Yeah. And you and I have both been doing this almost similar timeline. We're 9-10 years in, and we're still learning new nuances every single day. Yeah. And if there's anything that I want to make sure that the home buyers listening to this know is like having a professional in your corner is what is so important, right? And having somebody who's not afraid to go to bat for you. Yeah. Because I mean, frankly, if you had never experienced that or didn't have the contacts you have,
I wouldn't have known what to do.
Well, your client would have had a messed up bedroom is the reality of it. But because of the contacts you have, the relationships you've already built with other sectors of it, you were able to execute it for her and get her done.
And I think the biggest lesson is that there's always a solution.
Yes.
And it's so important to, again, it goes back to working with somebody you trust, working with somebody who's experienced. I knew the agent on the other side. I didn't freak out.
Yeah.
She didn't freak out. Were the clients freaking out? Maybe a little bit, but we told them not to.
Yeah.
And we figured it out. I mean, obviously, I don't think people are going to run into that same problem.
Yeah, that's definitely probably a one-off, I would say.
But there's always a solution.
Yeah.
And I think it's just allowing that solution to be found.
Yeah. And one thing I've done, too, is like a lot of times before even bringing a concern to the table and like letting somebody aware of it, finding a solution already. Yeah. And working with somebody who's creative enough to like, hey, this just came up. Yeah. And for me, it's a lot of underwriting things. It's unique financing situations that pop up. But it's like, hey, this came up. Maybe they bought a car, right? That happens. When they buy a car in the middle of the process, it's like, good news. I've got it figured out. Here's our plan. Here's what we need to do to execute it, and like having that plan figured out before you even raise the concern positions us as the experts and allows our clients to be at ease knowing that we already know what to do to solve it and get to the finish line, which is really what matters the most, right? Like when somebody's buying a house, the goal is to get you into the house and let the dust settle.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what we're here to help navigate.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but the reason that I'm in this career is because, again, like I said, it's never boring.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always something new. If every transaction was just like a write the contract, easy inspection, close.
Yep.
Like that would be so mundane and boring.
Yeah.
And I think the exciting part of it is the problem solving.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I hope we run into crazy things with every deal.
We prefer our deals to go easy, right?
But it's just, and I think your client appreciates it so much because then they really, I mean, I think she's more likely to refer people to me than
Without
if we
a doubt.
had a perfect transaction.
Yeah, but also you had that comfort level already developed because of, you know, and I don't want to speak on this specific client, your relationship you had with her, I guess, but if, let's say, you didn't get the opportunity to do your buyer consult up front, and maybe it was a client you had never known before and never heard of before, if you weren't able to build that rapport in that upfront buyer consult, and then you say, hey, your bed's messed up, it would have been a whole different scenario. But because you already had built rapport with her, she already knows, likes, and trusts you, you were able to then say, hey, here's the plan. Do you trust me? Let's make this happen. You know, which is why it just recircles back to how important it is to set that upfront expectation and hop on those calls, hop on those meetings, and understand like, hey, this is who I am and this is what I'm here to serve you.
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest thing that I think like a takeaway to give to buyers is you have to trust your realtor.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with like the EBA, like your realtor is getting paid X%.
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable with them getting paid that to help you, you have to trust them. But it's really hard for some people to let go of the control, like buyers, I feel like. But you're hiring a professional to help you and to guide you and to, you know, do all of that for you. Let them.
Yes.
You know, it just could have gone differently. You know, not necessarily that situation, but sometimes where the buyer doesn't have the expectations and they're trying to overstep or they're complicating it because they
get
just
over involved.
And it's not yes and no.
Yeah, because you still want them to be able to.
Yeah, I guess I'm having trouble wording it nicely, but like
collaborate.
Let us do our job. Let us make it easy for you.
Yeah.
Give it a sec. And it's just like the entire expectation of the whole process.
Yeah.
When you set it up front and everybody knows their roles and their involvement, it's going to go so much smoother and so much more enjoyable for everybody.
No doubt. I love that with my whole heart. Well, listen, I think that you and I could sit here and talk for 6 hours. But this has been incredible. It's been a ton of valuable information for everybody that's listening. I think that the reality is we're going to have you back on because there's more stuff that I know you'd love to talk about.
Yes.
But we've reached kind of our time limit. So I'd love to give you an opportunity, plug who, you know, where can people find you? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah.
What kind of services do you offer? Whatever you want to lay out there, this is kind of your opportunity to do that.
That's kind of intimidating. Just the usual places, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Don't follow me on TikTok. I'm not.
What's your at? And we'll link it in the description below too.
My at on Instagram is Emina Steward Real Estate. Facebook, I think, is the same. It might just be Emina Steward. TikTok's more of the funny stuff. So if you really want to get to know me,
she did say she's Des Moines' funniest realtor. Actually, I technically gave you that title.
I know. And I think I am. I'm being a little,
you're too,
I'm being a little shy today.
No, she's really funny, I promise.
But yeah.
Be sure to follow along with her journey.
Thank you.
Even if it's not, you know, somebody listening, reaching out to be a client, just follow along for the stuff she's sharing because it's valuable content. And just know I appreciate you. I'm excited to have you share the stuff you have. Excited to have you back on in the future. So we'll link her stuff in the description below. But this has been a true pleasure. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.